Today we're going to talk about the parabola. So the definition of the parabola is the set of all point equidistant from a fixed point called focus and a line not containing f called the directrix. So what does it look like? So we need a focus, so that's our focus, and we need a directrix. Well, actually I can do it as a straight line. So that's a directrix. And we're looking for all the points that are at the same distance from both of them. So I'm going to start, if I go straight down here, if I'm going halfway here, so this distance is the same as this distance, that's going to be the vertex of my parabola. And then if I'm taking all the other points around, so if I'm taking, for example, this point here, it has to be at the same distance as this. So it's going to create a set of points that's going to look like this. So you know what a parabola looks like. You just have to remember that each point is at the same distance from the focus and your directrix. So that means that if this is called F, this is my point, and let's say this is a point M, then the distance from PF, so the measure of PF, is equal to measure of PM. So that is just the definition. Now, if we look at it algebraically to see what it's going to look like as an equation, it's going to look like this. So the equation for a parabola, you realize that our parabola can be four different things. It can be going up, going down, going to the left, or going to the right. Now, you already studied the first two ones because they are function as well, but the next two ones, they're not functions. So these two are not functions because you can see the points are repeating. So if the vertex of the parabola is 0, 0, so let's say here, my vertex is 0, 0, it can either go up like this or go down like this. And my focus will be somewhere here. So my vertex is here, my focus is here. In this one, my vertex is there, my focus is here. And this distance here, we're going to call it C. So if your C is positive, so the formula, I don't know if you see it well, it's 4 times C times Y. And C is the distance, well, absolute value of C is the distance between the focus and the vertex of the parabola. So if your C is positive, it's going to go up. If your C is negative, it's going to go down. You can see also that there is an axis of symmetry in your parabola here. So the axis of symmetry is vertical. What would be the equation of the axis of symmetry? If I ask you for the equation, it would be x is equal to 0. And the coordinate of your focus are going to be 0 plus C if you're going up or minus C if you're going down. And your directrix, oh yeah, I can show you. So the directrix is at the same distance from the focus. So the directrix is over here. So the equation of my directrix would be y is equal to negative C here. And here it's the same distance, but up. So here it would be y is equal to positive C. Because if it's going down here, that means my C will be negative. So that's for up and down. So my trick to remember is that it starts with x squared and it's around the x-axis. So you see like your x-axis is here. So it's going up or down the x-axis. So you start with x squared. Because it can also be left and right. So let's look at left and right. If it's left and right, then your equation will start. So if it's opening to the left or to the right, it's going to start with y squared is equal to 4cx. So you see that if it starts with y here, it's going to be either side of the y-axis. So what it looks like in a graph, so if goes like this. You're gonna have your focus inside here, your vertex there, and your directrix is the same distance. That's your C. The directrix is the same distance, but here. And if you go to the left, it's gonna look like this. Your focus will be inside here, your vertex there, and the directrix will be at the same distance here. On this one, you can, so the difference is here, if your C is positive, it's going to open to the right. And if your C is negative, it's going to open to the left. You see your axis of symmetry in this case is here. And if I asked you for the equation of the axis of symmetry, it would be y is equal to 0. The coordinate of your focus, if they ask you, then it would be here. It would be C0, or here it's going to be negative C0. Negative C0. And your vertex is at the origin, so that's easy. If they ask you for the equation of the directrix over here, then it would be y is equal to negative C. And over here, it would be y is equal to positive C. So let's look at some examples. So I suggest that you take a few seconds to try to graph it. Okay, so example number 1 is x squared is equal to 20y. So the first thing you realize is that your original equation is 4cy. So you can see that here 4c is equal to 20. So that means c is equal to 20 divided by 4. C is equal to 5. So it's positive. That means that your parabola will open up. What will be the coordinate of your focus? So imagine if we're here, we start at 0 and we're opening up. Our focus will be at a distance of 5. So it's going to look like this. It's going to open up. Now, if you want to check, you can find some points to see how wide to open. You can check at when x is 3 or when y is 1 and see what happened. It's going to be wide. So your focus is at 0, 5, and your directrix has to be the same distance but down. So your directrix is going to be here. Therefore, the equation would be y is equal to negative 5. Right, let's look at one that's going to be different orientation. Find the equation of the parabola that has its vertex at the origin, and the focus is at 3/2, 0. So 3/2 is 1.5. The focus is here. So that means it's going to look like this, and your directrix would be here at negative 1.5. So you know that it's going right, right? It's going right. That means that your C should be positive. You can start with your rule. So your rule is y squared is equal to 4cx. And if your focus is at 3/2, then you know that C is equal to 3/2, right? So then when you write down your rule, it's going to be 4 times 3/2 times x. You don't leave it like that because you know how to multiply fractions. So when you multiply fraction, you do the top with the top, the bottom with the bottom. So you get 12 over 2. But really, you should write it like 6x. So that would be your equation. Now, what happens if the vertex is not at the origin? Because that's going to happen, right? So if it's not at the origin, then your equation looks like, you're used to it by now, and there's a h and k. So h and k are the coordinates of the vertex, okay? So if, let's say, I'm sketching here, this is my vertex, I'm going to call it HK. There's an horizontal translation of X, H, and vertical translation of K. And if this is my directrix here, right? So that means at the same distance, I need to draw my focus. So my focus is going to be there. So I can sketch what it looks like. So remember that this distance has to be the same as this one. And that's it. So you know that if your vertex is at HK, then your focus will be at H, but then K plus C. Okay? And your directrix will be here at Y is equal to K minus C, because it's going down. All right, and that's it. What if it's left and right? What if it's left and right? So your equation starts with y squared, or y minus k. Again, your vertex is here. If I put my vertex over here, HK, and let's say I'm graphing this way because my directrix is on the left. Remember that this distance has to be the same as the one that goes with to the focus. So my focus will be here. So you know that if it's opening to the right, then your focus coordinate will be H plus C, and it's going to be at the same K. And your directrix will be X is equal to H minus C, because it's going to the left. So let's look at some examples now. If the parabola defined by this is transformed using this translation. So there's a translation of negative 3 and plus 5. So negative 3 and plus 5, that's your H and K, right? It's your translation. So it's moving horizontally by 3 to the left and up by 5. So usually it starts at 0, so you go at negative 3 and 5, and this is where your vertex is going to be. So you know that your equation is going to look, usually your equation is like this, 4cy minus k. Now you plug in what you know. So minus 3, that's going to give you plus 3. 4c, you know it's going to be the same as here, okay? So that's 3 over 5, and y minus 5. So that would be the equation of your parabola. Now, if you want to sketch it, if you want to graph, you would need to find c. So, you know, like we said here, your vertex, we got the vertex. Now, to find c, you know that 4c is 3/5. So how do you find c? You need to divide that by 4 over 1. So remember, when you divide by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal, and then after you just go like this. So 3 over 20 is your c. So that means from your vertex, 3 over 20 is your c. So that's going to be your focus. It's opening up because your c is positive here. So because this is positive, you know it's going to go up. And so your directrix has to be right underneath at the same distance like this. So when you sketch, it's going to look like this. So to find your directrix, you would have to find, we are at 5, but then you need to minus 3 over 20. Again, at this point, I hope everybody's comfortable. You just have to subtract fraction. Make sure you put them on the same denominator. So times 5 times 5, 100 minus 3. Your directrix would be at 97 over 20. And if you had to find your focus, where is the focus precisely? The focus is at 5 plus 3 over 20. So again, you put them on the same denominator. Times 5, times 20 times 20, so that's 100. So your focus is 103 over 20. If they ask for the coordinate, it would be minus 3, 103 over 20, the coordinate of your focus. And if they ask for the equation of the directrix, it would be 97 over 20 x. No, sorry, not x, just yeah. All right. Okay, another example. If you have a parabola centered at the origin that has a point f0 minus 6 as the focus. So let's sketch first before even we read the question. So you're centered at the origin and it has a point 0, negative 6 as the focus. Okay, so you know that I'm going to sketch down like this. Is the point negative 12, negative 6 passing through this parabola? So first, so that's my x and my y, I would need a rule, right? So let's try to find the rule. Remember, if it's going up and down, passing by the origin is this. But you know, you can always start with the one, the general one, x minus h squared is equal to 4c y minus k, because you know if it's passing by the origin, you know that h and k is 0, 0. So you can just plug that in, okay? So I have x squared is equal to 4 my c. If I know my focus is at negative c, then my c is equal to negative 6. Okay, so then negative 6 y minus k, which is 0. So my rule is negative 24 y. Now I'm going to take my point here and I'm going to plug it in to see if it works. Negative 24 times negative 6. So here I get 144. Is it equal to negative 144? So the answer is yes. So the question was, does this parabola passes through? So the answer is yes, because it can fit in the rule. All right, a few more examples and we're going to be done with this. What if you have to find the equation? Okay, so first make sure you start with the right rule. So like I said, x squared is going to go like this or like this. And this means you have to remember your c should be positive and here your c should be negative. And if it's y, then it's either this way or this way. When you calculate here, your c should be negative and here your c should be positive. So let's look at what the graph tells us. Okay, so if we look at the graph, we need to find what's h, k, and then your c. You have to find your c. So look at the graph here. So we know the focus here is minus 4, 5. Okay, so you know that your vertex here is on the same line here. So that means that your h will be equal to negative 4 because it's on the same vertical line. So we got h. Now to find our k here, we know that the distance between this is positive 3 and this is negative 5 here. So there's a distance of 8 altogether. And remember, this distance has to be the same as this. So if we do 8 divided by 2, we get 4. So that means there's 4 up there and 4 down here. So how do I find my k here? It's going to be equal to 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. So I have my k, I have my h. And how do you find c? C is the value, the absolute value of c here would be 4, but you know it's facing down, so your c is equal to negative 4. So you just have to start with the right rule. Make sure you start with the right rule. So this is around the x-axis, so I'm going to go with this rule. And then plug in the things that I know. So I know my h is negative 4, so x minus minus 4, so I get x plus 4. For c, which is this, so we replace with our negative 4 as c, and then y minus k, our k is negative 1, so it's going to give you plus 1. Don't leave it like that, please, because I know you can do 4 times negative 4, so you should leave it like this. Okay, and there you go, you got your equation. Okay, try to do this one. Okay, so pause the video if you're watching a video there, and pause this to try to find the equation of the parabola, and then after you can watch it. So when you look at the information given, this is your HK, and this is a point XY. So we're going to be starting with the right rule. Because it's left and right, it's y minus k squared is equal to 4c x minus h. And then we're going to plug in the things that we know. So y is negative 18 minus k, which is negative 8. So that's going to turn into plus. We don't know 4c, so that's what we're looking for. And x is 9 minus 4. If you do, this is negative 10 squared, so that's 100, is 4c, and this is 5. We're looking for c, so we just divide by 5, and we get that 4c is equal to 20. So you should be able to write down your rule now. It's equal to 20 x minus 4. There you go. One more example about the regions, internal or external. So if they ask you to graphically represent the region corresponding to this inequality. So let's look at your vertex first. Okay, you can identify the vertex easily. That's negative 2 and negative 3. So already there. Oh, wait, negative 2 and, so yeah, be careful on this one, okay, because it's y minus k, so negative 2 and then 3. So we have our vertex here. Now, if you want, you can find some points to help you graph because you don't know how wide it is. So the easiest I find is plug in x is equal to 0. So if you plug in x is equal to 0, you're going to get this. And I'm going to put it equal because I'm looking for the point. Okay, so that's 4 is equal to minus 0.5 y minus 3 divided by negative 0.5. So you get negative 8 is y minus 3, and plus 3 plus 3, y is equal to negative 5. So you have a point, you know that when x is equal to 0, y is equal to negative 5. So that gives you an idea of how your parabola is going to look like. Now we have to figure out if we're going to dot the shade inside or outside. So we're going to do the same as we did before. Let's try with 0, 0 to see what happened when we plug in 0, 0. So we're going to have this. Is this smaller than this? So on the left side we have 4. On the right side we have 1.5. Is 4 smaller than 1.5? No. So that means 0, 0 is not in the shaded area. So I'm going to use a different color just so you can really see the solution. So the solution is a dotted line because it's not included. And 0, 0 is not shaded. So that means you're going to shade this part. Have fun working with parabolas now.